What's up, world? You know what it is tonight. Just trying to get in a quick sparring session, basically. This is the Pay Me No Mind show. This is your host, Wood. There's a lot of things going on. And I'm busy this weekend, so I thought I'd get in here and knock out a quick one. Just kind of stay sharp. Like I said, a little sparring session. This is mainly entertainment, but we'll hit in a few sports takes in the intro. We're going to jump on to a couple of different programs, different series that I'm watching, touch on a hip hop artist that I like. And then I'm going to hit a few nice little summertime series that are going on right now with Power Update. I'm 2 weeks behind on that. Also a new show I was able to get a catch up with was Ballers, with Mark Wahlberg and Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, their collaboration. And then maybe some brief True Detective talk. True Detective is struggling a little bit. But first I want to get a couple of announcements out the way. Big shout out, big salute to my team. You know who they are.
You're tuned in to a one-take podcast production.
That's right, One Take Podcast Nation. My boy Dav and B Meeks. Really quickly, I never really throw this out there, but the intro music, you can holler at a brother named @Trip_Fontaine, 2 P's, @Trip_Fontaine. That's actually a single of his. You can check him out on SoundCloud. You can find him on here. I really like the track. I think it's called New Heights. Also want to shout out to One Take. You can find all the work on the roster, the One Take podcast roster. You can find all of us at onetakepodcast.com. On Twitter, you can find us at One Take Podcast N, the letter N for November. Just a few things right there. Couple of announcements. Speaking of Trip Fontaine, he's actually with a group of brothers here locally. They do a monthly poetry series, spoken word series, down at a local venue. But the group is called Metaphorically Speaking. They actually have an event going on this Friday called Love, Sex, and Poetry. That's the theme. That's Friday night at 8 p.m. The featured artist is Harold Green. I got some interviews saved of some of these brothers. I might bring them on in future shows. I got another line in the water, so to speak, for one of their artists that comes up from Columbus. I think his name is, I think he's on Twitter at BlameJG maybe, but his name is JG the Juggernaut. Last month he did a nice piece. I was trying to get him on to do a part of it or all of it on Pay Me No Mind. But we haven't been able to hook up yet. But again, Metaphorically Speaking, Love, Sex, and Poetry this Friday night at 8 p.m. at Therapy Cafe. Throwing that out there because, like I said, Trip lets me use his music for my intro, outro music. So, good looking. Wish them the best this week. I'm going to try to make it out. Also, hey, anybody that pressed play, like my boy B Meek says, I thank you 3,000% for pressing play. But this past weekend, I started a new series called, I think I'm going to name it Hoops and Hops. Had a special guest at Greg Raps. At Greg Raps. That's Realize Anything's Possible. Me and him, you didn't listen to the series or to the show. He's 1/3 of a group of guys that are trying to start a local brewery called Crafted Pints. But he sat in with me and we discussed craft beer, that community. And then we got into some summer league basketball, NBA Summer League basketball. We wrapped that up. For everybody that didn't get a chance to catch it, we talked about our biggest storylines. The show was very well received. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
Thanks for pressing play.
So that was one thing. That's kind of the intro to the show. I don't know if anybody caught it last week, or actually last night, but BET hosted the National Basketball Players Association's first award show. I didn't get to catch all of it, I'll admit. I had some running around to do, and really the only thing that I saw was a 2 Chainz performance, and a little bit of the brother from Saturday Night Live, is it Pharaoh? I can't even think of his name off the top of my head, but he was the host. The highlight of the night, the show closed with James Harden being named as the Players' Choice MVP, the NBPA MVP, over Steph Curry. And I'm not going to lie, on my previous podcast, before I started Pay Me No Mind, I argued ardently that James Harden should have been, or his performance was deserving of the MVP. And it was interesting because the national media, the big boys, they get stuck in these requirements the way that it's always been done. They just have to go with the status quo and maintain it. Harden couldn't be the MVP because his team wasn't the winningest team. And so we end up with Steph Curry collecting 100 out of 130 number one MVP votes in that race. So he ran over James. And I'm not going to argue against that. I mean, he should have won MVP. All I'm saying was James Harden, he lost his point guard. He spent a lot of the year without D Howard on the court. And he was in the toughest division, in the toughest conference. And he took his team from the 5th slot to at least the 2nd slot. I don't know if I can't remember if they finished in the 2nd slot, number 2 seed. But single-handedly, the guy put in work. So I just thought it was interesting that the NBPA sided with me for him being the MVP. It was a good look. He came out and had a very short speech, and the show wrapped up. I just wonder, I'm just throwing this out there. You can holler at me on Twitter at E_pluribus_wood. Chop it up with me about it. But do you think it's some backlash against Steph amongst the players? I mean, he is one of the more diminutive players in the league. We know about the light-skinned brother joke that's been running for the last 5 years on Twitter and Facebook, Instagram. But he's a married brother. I mean, his demeanor, he's somewhat soft-spoken. He does celebrate and pump his chest and a lot of, he does get demonstrative during the games, but it's very pulled back. I mean, it's like he does it inside of his own bubble when he does celebrate on the court. But do you think it's some backlash amongst the players for him? He's probably viewed as more of a finesse player, jump shooter, whereas James Harden is probably, he's praised highly for drawing the contact, finishing with the and ones. I mean, he looks the part, the beard, the mohawk, probably some tattoos. I don't know if he has any or not. I never looked at him that closely. But is there some backlash against Steph Curry? He's a believer. He puts his faith out there in the front for the public. He probably isn't hitting the strip clubs and making it rain along with the rest of his teammates. He's a different guy. He came from obviously a good situation, probably growing up with his father being an NBA player, one of the game's best outside shooters. So I just wonder if Steph Curry's personality, maybe, because he's with Under Armour. I don't know. I really don't know. But like I said, James Harden takes home the first NBPA Players Choice MVP award. Good for him. One other piece of news from the NBA, Becky Hammond. Shout out to her, man. I like this lady. She took the Spurs Summer League team to the title of the Las Vegas Summer League. And Stephen A beat me to it today. But I strongly believe that in the next few years, I believe Becky Hammond could be a head coach in the NBA. Maybe even she's groomed as Popovich's successor. Maybe. She did a great job, though. I don't know how much that stands for. How do you value that championship in the summer league? But she did it, and I just like Becky because she seems to be a bit of a rebel and a fighter. I don't know if you remember in 2008, 2012, but she became a naturalized citizen of Russia to play on Russia's Olympic team in 2008 and 2012. And it was like, well, I'm not good enough to play here, but I love the game that much that any way I can make it happen, I'm going to make it happen. Now, I will be honest, I'm surprised there hasn't been, widespread criticism as her star has, gotten brighter and brighter. I'm surprised that somebody hasn't called her out on that, going to play for Russia. But we're in a different day. Russia's not as strong as a world power as it used to be, so who knows? But I believe, and that would be funny because somebody like Bill Laimbeer, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, these guys haven't been able to get head coaching positions. And Laimbeer, I believe he's won 2 WNBA titles, and he can't even get on the coaching staff. By the way, if I did mention it, shout out to big salute to Seth Curry, who I spoke of on the Hops and Hoops podcast. Just came out earlier today that Mr. Seth Curry, for his performance, where he averaged nearly 25 or right over 25 a game, he was able to secure a 2-year deal with the Sacramento Kings. And I think that's a good move for him. That's a great move for that organization. They just need to quell what's been going on with Coach Carl and Boogie. But to finish up my point on this NBA, Michelle A. Roberts is the NBPA executive director. That's the National Basketball Players Association executive director. She's a female, obviously. And with that move right there, I just think that kind of signifies how forward thinking that the NBA could be. They were the first ones with the NBA refs. That's been 4 or 5 years now. I think they might even have 2. NFL is just getting their first female referee this season. And she may be a line judge or one of the, part of the staff, but not actually the one that runs out there and makes the calls. But that's pretty cool. So I just think with, that trail being blazed already in the NBA with Michelle. Michelle's a beast. I don't know if you've seen her speak before, do interviews and whatnot, but just for a little reference or context, she's kind of the counterpart of the NFL's DeMaurice Smith. She has the same position in the NBA. And I don't know if you know it or not, but Tony Clark, former Detroit Tiger, is the same position over in the MLB. So good for him. So that's my take on the NBPA First Players Awards show. That was kind of a coup for BET to pull that off too. I'll check it. I'm sure it'll be rebroadcast, and I'll get a chance to take a look at it. So that's that. Moving along. Any thoughts? And you can get at me on Twitter at @E_pluribus_wood. It looks like Andre Berto could really be opponent number 49 for Floyd Money Mayweather. The fight's scheduled for September 12th. I'm sure that's at the MGM in Las Vegas. you know, reports of